Hey everyone, this is Adam from CarNewsCafe.com, and today our podcast topic is going to be young people and auto marketing. Are car companies serious about attracting young people, or is this just some BS marketing ploy? If you'd like to join in on this discussion, you can tweet us at CarNewsCafe.com, and I'm here with my two CNC colleagues, Aaron and Nicholas.
Hi, everybody. This is Aaron from CarNewsCafe.com. We should point out that the impetus for this discussion, am I allowed to use that word?
Yeah.
I think it's an okay word.
Yeah.
It sounds funny. I love it.
This discussion started when Adam posted an article about Lincoln changing leadership, and the first thing they said was the usual automotive marketing line of, "We're going to work on appealing to young people." That was kind of what started this.
I actually don't think they stated that, but it is clear that they're shaking up the leadership because Lincoln does need to try and reorganize themselves as a luxury brand. And I think their feeling is that they are not appealing to young people, at least the talks that I've had with the PR firm that is working with Lincoln currently.
And good
speaking
morning,
of
good
which, we
afternoon,
haven't
good
heard
evening,
the good
wherever you
morning
are. You can see my
thing.
colleagues are so excited that they totally forgot I'm here, but we're going to try to talk
I did
about
introduce
this.
you.
And
I said I'm
I
here
know,
with
but I never
Aaron
even
and
had a
Nicholas.
chance to say hello. Hey, hello, hello, world. I'm here. I do exist. For crying out loud. Answer to my comments. I'm sorry. But yeah, indeed, there's a lot of that going on right now, and car makers are really confused. They don't know how to reach out to that, 18 to 25-year-old segment of the population. They know that they have some sort of money, but they're really stuck with it. So now they're appealing to them, and I think, we each have different points of view on that. So let's go ahead.
Well, the new guy at Lincoln, his name is Kumar. I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name.
He's
Uh,
a Indian. He's an Indian guy.
No
yeah,
I
kidding,
guess I
really.
could look this up. Yeah,
I was
it's
just
Kumar
looking at it and I
Galhotra. I
was
think
thinking,
it's
well, they're
Kumar
already
Galhotra.
okay.
Galhotra is how you spell his last name.
Well, what I have to say is they're already halfway to appealing to the young audience. All they need to do is hire a major guy named Harold, and they've got it made.
See, that's the thing, though. I'm confused because
All right,
Lincoln is not a young company. It's not a company for young people. It's usually a company for people more my age who, want a certain level of prestige and don't want to go like, the Maserati route or something even more like that, or BMW or Audi, whatever you want to call it. And I think they have their own niche. The problem is, I think Ford is not just hasn't figured it out yet. So I don't know if appealing to these young kids is going to be the best route. Just my point of view.
Well, Lincoln really does not have a sports car.
Yep.
They don't have anything you would call a luxury sports car. The MKS, they try to kind of make it into one, but it's not really a sports car. So Lincoln is not appealing to a young audience in the way that, say, Toyota is with the F Sport moniker, with the for Lexus.
Well, Toyota
And
also has a separate brand that they created, which is Scion, and they've tried to come out with models like the FRS that.
right, but I'm talking about just premium brands. So with
Right.
Toyota, it's Lexus, and Lexus has the F Sport moniker, and then they have you turn to some of the other ones. Audi is known as a sports car maker. That's what everybody expects them to make. So they don't need to do anything separate from what they do as a core model. And so Lincoln, what I'm getting at is Lincoln does not have that. They don't have a brand that's sporty. They don't have a general branding in terms of what people think of them that has anything to do with young and sporty. My dad back in the day in the 90s, he bought a Lincoln because then he knew that he had made it. He was a rich guy, right? And that's what he bought it for. He didn't buy it because this is the young people's brand. He was over 50, so it's a odd thing that they would try to they would want to appeal to a younger audience because, as Nicholas said, they don't go that way. It's not what people think of them.
Well, I mean, you can look at the language that a lot of these companies use nowadays, which is they use things like innovative design or entrepreneurial spirit, things like these phrases, and it's clear what they're trying to do here. It's not, I mean,
But you know what it is? Is that I think it's actually it's very symbolical. It's exactly the best result that has been. Okay, let me rephrase this. I'm going all over the place with this one, but it's the result of what they've been doing for the last 30 years. Huge expansions, buying out everyone, then spreading themselves out, then losing scope, losing aim, then of course letting go of all these companies, keeping 2, 3 core companies with them, and then what do we do with all of this? Same thing with Cadillac right now. I'm looking at the Cadillac ELR numbers, and of course, if you read the news, it's the same thing. Cadillac can't sell its ELR, dealerships don't want and everything, and it's really truly sad because it's actually a good car. It's not a Volt; it's actually a really beefed up Volt. It has its own image, but I think it's always the same problem: is you have a lot of great car people working at these companies, and then you have management, and there's such a disconnect between these two that it's really deplorable. And Ford maybe doesn't have as much of a gap as say GM has, but when it comes to Lincoln,
well,
it's really bizarre because Lincoln already has a following, even though they might be in a bit of a flux right now. But I still think they need to focus on that, 40 to 65 people who don't really want a Ford but want something a little bit better than a Ford, and I think that's the market segment for these guys. I don't know why they're going 180 now and going toward after young kids now. It's not Lincoln. Lincoln is not young kids. But maybe
well,
I'm too old.
I think the market, what Lincoln specifically has done, and some other automakers have done similar things. Is they took their new MKC, which is like their mid-size SUV, and they went around to some cities, I think like Chicago, Boston, DC, and I was invited to that one in DC. I wasn't able to attend, but it was like at an art gallery, and it was clear it's supposed to be really swanky. What they're trying to do is they're trying to appeal to at least like 30-year-olds that obviously have a lot of money, or young
Hmm.
young urbanites, yuppies, and they're trying to get these people interested in Lincoln, which I don't think is a stupid move on their part. It's smart for them to try and sort of change their image, because I in 10 to 15 years, if I do have a lot of money, they want to position themselves as, oh yeah, we are a brand that you wanted to buy as a kid, but you couldn't, and now you have the money and you can get a Lincoln, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
actually
that
that's a good
that
way
would
of
be a
looking
good
at it.
angle.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
I
one
mean,
thing I
that's
will point out too is that this guy, this new guy, Galhotra, I guess is how we're gonna say his name. Uh, this guy does have a very, very engineering. I mean, he's very, very heavy in engineering for his background at Ford, um, and also with product development and strategy. So this guy's a good choice to lead the company. Um, but it'll be interesting to see if he or anybody there decides to take Lincoln and kind of turn the corner and go on a different, slightly different track, because I'm just trying to figure out what Lincoln can do. Like they had a great thing with the MKZ, especially in the hybrid form, and then they screwed it all up by fudging the EPA numbers with it, and it totally destroyed sales for that car. It dropped 5 miles to the gallon. That's horrible if you're trying to sell a hybrid. So they had a great marketing strategy for the car, sell it at the same price as the regular gasoline
Right.
one. I mean, they had a real winner there, and then they just completely, they didn't just
Well,
drop the
how
ball.
do,
They dropped the soap in the shower stall. It was horrible.
that's
well,
awful.
how do you think other automakers have responded to trying to appeal to a youth market?
You know what? I mean,
Because
you know what?
I
Well,
have my own opinions about this, but
well, look. Look at Mazda. I think Mazda is one of the best turnaround right now. Whether or not they're hitting their numbers is another question. But I think Mazda is doing a really good job ever since Ford got rid of them, or they got rid of Ford, whichever you want to look at it. They're doing pretty good. Their image is still pretty good. You still have a lot of Mazda fans, and I mean I see a lot of Mazda 3s around here, and most of them are Sky Active. So I think they're doing pretty good. They've turned around pretty well as far as their image.
Well, Mazda has done a good job just because Mazda always had a core, and they never walked away from that. And that's why Mazda hasn't just died out, is because they have such a great core of fans, and they appeal to that core essence that they have so well that as long as they keep doing that, they can build on it. As far as Lincoln turning around, though, I think
I don't know if they can actually, because that's that's one of the problems why they're not. I mean, their last couple of models have basically been a make or break situation for them.
I think the Mazda's issue is marketing. Mazda
Yes,
does
I
not
would agree.
understand long-term marketing. They seem to do everything short-term. They throw out, advertising and marketing for a month or two, maybe 3 months, and then they drop it and they move on to marketing a different model. They haven't figured out that you can market all of your stuff all the time, and
Yeah, but
that's the way to
that's a
build
Japanese
success.
company philosophy. I don't think they're
Yeah.
really Japanese companies are not that great at marketing, especially marketing in the U.S. I've noticed that. But
But jumping back to Lincoln and how they could turn themselves around if that's what they're looking to do, I think a great example of a luxury car maker that had that total old people thing happening and then turned it around is to look at General Motors. Both Buick and Cadillac have both done that. They're in the process right now of turning themselves around so that they're not seen as just the old people's brands anymore.
I
Um,
still wouldn't buy a Buick, and I still would not buy a Cadillac. If I got $100,000 tomorrow, Aaron, I would
oh yeah, but
I
you
probably
know
would
what?
go
That's
I
out.
wouldn't
hold
buy
on.
them
Yeah, but
simply
hold on.
because
Get
they don't have
Adam,
anything I want.
$100,000 puts you in a totally different league. I'm talking about $40,000 to $80,000. Would you actually buy a Buick or a Cadillac? Maybe no, because of the of what it reminds you. But when I look at the Buick numbers and what they're doing, I mean, performance-wise, they sound like pretty good cars. Now, of course, the styling is what it is. Blah 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 blah. But I think Aaron has a good point. I think they're marketing themselves, for the future generations to go, oh yeah, that's that nice car I remember hearing
Yeah,
about.
Cadillac moved forward with the ATS, which is a very sporty little car, and Buick has turned around and they've returned the Regal S. They've returned a few of their well-remembered sports models. And what's happened is that if you look at just the sales number, even if you or I would not buy that car, other people are. Their sales numbers are growing, and that's a
Right.
great example of that happening. Lexus did the same thing. Lexus was falling way over the cliff into that old people buy us and
Yeah.
nobody else cares thing, and so they
And
hurried up
then
and threw out the IS 350s and the F Sports, which are beautiful cars. And now all of a sudden they're getting a younger audience again. It's
Yeah, and
possible to do it.
I think that's basically what they are. They're up at their ends wits, and they don't know
well,
what
I'm
else to
just
do, and they're
I'm
really
just
thinking down the future here, way down.
I'm just saying, if I got a bunch of money tomorrow and I want to go get a luxury car, it's probably not going to be from General Motors for a variety of reasons. It'd probably be like a Lexus or Mercedes or something like that.
I think these car companies need to go back to what they're really good at and what they're really well known for, and I think they're still trying to bring into this new world their old what am I looking for? Their old business models, and that just won't work today. They really need to bite
Hmm.
the bullet and really become innovative instead of just saying trendy, innovative designs.
Innovative.
What was it called? Entrepreneurial DNA.
Entrepreneurial
Entrepreneurial
Oh,
spirit.
good Lord, get over it. You know
innovative
what? This is just
design.
lame marketing. Just do it. You don't need to look at Tesla. They don't advertise. They don't need to say because, oh, guess what? They are doing it. So they really need to just once and for all scratch it and go back to the table and go, okay, what are we really good for? What is by the way, what is the difference between Ford, GM, and Chrysler? And I'm not talking about terms of performance and everything. What is that thing that makes you think, oh yeah, that's really Ford. Oh yeah, that's really Chrysler. I don't know. They have four wheels and a body. Yep.
To be honest with you, it's business
Prescription.
models for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, exactly. But you know
Ford
what
has
I'm
a
talking about?
superior
Well, yeah, but
business
and
model
a
to the other
great
two.
point. Yeah, but Aaron, great point. But I'm
Yeah,
talking
because they
about in
didn't
the
need a
eye of a
bailout.
20-year-old buyer right now who happens to have $40,000. Do you think he's going to look at the business model and go, "Gee whiz, I really like Chrysler's business model. I'm going to give him 40." No, it doesn't work
Well,
like that.
let me answer that then. If I was 20 and I was looking at cars and I saw I was walking down dealership row in whatever city I live in, and I see Ford and General Motors and Chrysler. First off, Chrysler doesn't have a small car that I would immediately think of unless I was an auto geek, right? Most people do not think Dodge Dart when they think small car.
Right.
Um, when you look at General Motors, they have Chevrolet has the little Sonic. There's a couple of them. They aren't sporty cars. So if you want a sporty, fun car, you go to Ford because they have the Focus.
Yeah,
The Focus by
exactly.
itself is sporty, and the ST is especially sporty.
And that sells really well
Yeah,
in the UK and I think other countries too.
Actually, no, the Focus is their #1 selling car, period,
yeah,
In the
globally.
globally.
world, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and in
absolutely.
fact, I was looking at this.
Hot hatchback.
I was
Hot
looking at.
hatch.
I'm working on an article for Carfax on green cars for people that love cars, right? I did one for. I did a similar article for another outlet, and um, I walked away from hybrids, and I was specifically looking at just small cars, right? What there is for small cars. Um, so for this specific focus that I was doing for another outlet, and um, I can't tell you who it is because this was a ghostwritten article, but I looked at several of the cars that are out there, and I was really amazed because in out of just Detroit, there are some top selling small cars. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
amazing. The Honda Civic
Absolutely.
always leads the small car, and the Toyota Corolla is always right behind it. Last year they were only 3 or 4 thousand units apart from each other, so they were right on each other. But right after that, the next one in line is the Ford Focus, and then the Chevy
Yeah,
Cruze.
but and also great point you're making. Think about it. Why is the Camry one of the best-selling cars in the world? It's Toyota, therefore it's PR. So really, people don't go out and say, "I'm going to drive myself a fun car and buy a Camry," right? But
Right.
people will say, "I want to drive a fun car," and will go to the Ford Focus because it is a fun car to drive, and it actually does pretty much everything pretty well, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So again, I think it's you're right. It is perceived.
You should definitely buy a Focus.
Because
Yeah.
because Adam has shares of he has Ford shares, right?
And if the
I
Focus
didn't
is too
say
much,
that.
go
You're
get a
the one who
Ford.
just said that.
Um,
I'm just thinking. That's all. Extrapolating.
you
That
have
is a
the
true statement, Woody. It
That I'm
is.
extrapolating. Yes, indeed, I am.
well,
I
it's
should say, by the way, that I do have ETFs, and at any moment, at any second, I could have one of the following. I mean, any kind of stock. So that's why I don't even say it anymore because I never know. Might be true at the time I write it. Might not be true anymore a few seconds later.
Yeah, well, on my end, I live in a bunker in Wyoming, so all I have is food and gold.
You know what?
Um,
That's probably the
and
best way to go about it.
and it's funny too though, because I was thinking about the same a subject similar to this, and that was when young guys. If I was 20 years old, or if I was even 25, if I was in that age range, and I had a decent income, I made more than I made when I was 20 or 25. But if I made the equivalent of say $30,000 a year at that age, what would I buy? And then I thought, well, what if I was one of these young kids, one of these entrepreneurs that walked into something great and is pulling in $300,000 or $400,000 a year? What would I buy?
Okay, I
Yeah,
can
and
tell
I
you what I
think
would buy. It
these,
would be a
yeah,
ticket to somewhere else.
these new wave internet, moguls that just make $100 million in a
Yeah.
blink of an eye. I think these are the people that automakers are thinking, we need to get these people to buy our cars.
Well, I don't
Okay,
think the
but
automakers are aiming for them. I think they're aiming for their employees,
yeah,
because those guys,
Right.
they might make $20 billion in the next 5 years, but they're also going to be paying $200,000 and $300,000 a year to the people that work for them,
yeah.
and
Right.
and so think about that, the Silicon Valley type or whatever, and or the the kid that inherits his parents' business or something, and
Or
he's got
public relations or something like
he's
that.
got
Yeah.
he's got a couple $100,000 a year coming in. What is that guy gonna, what is that kid or what is that girl, what are they gonna go buy? And
Probably a Tesla.
well, you have to ask though, would they? Because Tesla's market,
I would.
the average buyer at Tesla is not that young, so you would have to wonder who is, what would those kids buy? What are they buying? That's the market that the GTR. That's the market uh, some of these relatively high end but not overly expensive. So around the 90 to
100,000.
$130,000
Yeah,
mark.
yeah.
That's the market that those cars sell to. Because you're still young enough to be stupid enough to believe that you can handle the car and not get killed, but old enough that you can actually probably drive it and not get killed. Right? You're right in that little area, because honestly, after age 25, and once you get to be my age and you get really ripe like Nicholas, once you get to those ages, those cars only have a limited appeal. I love the Nissan GTR, but I don't want to own one.
Nope.
I want to drive somebody else's. It's like Mark Twain said. He said he recommends all of his friends buy motor cars so that he can ride in them.
Are you pushing your Inquisitor story here, or what?
I haven't mentioned Inquisitor at all, but it was a quote that fit the point. That was my idea. So
But you know
how's
what?
that?
It's actually a good point, because I'm okay. So I'm close to my 50s, right? And I'm thinking, I used to want this, used to want that, used to want that, and I love my little cars. But now I'm actually thinking maybe the Model S is not such a bad car after all. And I'm not dissing the Model S by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not my kind of car. I don't need a sedan. I don't need a big car, but it is very comfortable and it has a lot of performance, right? And I'm starting to think that, yeah, you know what? I'm starting to lean towards that. It would need to be a two-door, much smaller. But yeah, the Roadster is a little bare butt bone kind of thing. So you're right. You've got a good point there.
Well, it's like one of the reasons I got into doing what I'm doing is that I get to drive other
Insanity.
people's cars all the time, right? That's the whole idea here.
And insanity too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I got to the point where I had always lived life where money was secondary anyway, and so a job that doesn't pay anything, whatever. and on top of that, now I get to do what I've always wanted to do, which is drive cool cars, but not have to own them. And so,
And technically, that is the best way to do it because you don't have to worry about insurance, and you enjoy the car for a week and then just give it back.
I
Or repairs.
this
No
week I have a
insurance and
family
repairs.
car. I'm driving a Toyota Venza. On Monday, I get the new manly Volkswagen Bug, the little R line. And I get a Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid next week. And sometime down here, I'm getting some other stuff, the new MX-5 from Mazda, and eventually a Chevy Corvette. So
Is it time to say that my next two cars are going to be a Cadillac ELR and a Mazda 3 Skyactiv? Woohoo!
so you are
But you know
getting
what?
the Cadillac.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Unlike you, I know I can't keep
Let
up with all the
me-
reviews I'm supposed to do, so that's why I've said no the last 3 months, because I am swamped. And I still have, by the way, I have 3 articles that have been opened up on my computer for, kid you not, 2.5 months now. Pathetic or what?
Well, what I do is I just sit down and I say, okay, I have to do a review, and I need to do one review for Car News Cafe per week at minimum, and that's all. That's what I do. I just set that goal for myself and I do it.
Yeah.
But
And for any budding auto writers that are listening to this, that's what you have to do if you want to be successful. Because I've
you need to set goals, and then you need to actually keep them.
Yeah, they don't. I give some advice to people and say, if you want to send me something by Monday or whatever, it has to be completed, and I need to be able to look at it. And a lot of times they don't follow through. But back to actually getting cars from automakers or press fleets, one of the issues that luxury automakers have, or like Ford has a policy that they don't lend out cars to people under 25, which, if you think about it, makes no effing sense if their goal is like, well, young people need to buy our cars, right?
Well,
We need to appeal to young
there is
people.
an exception, and that is if
If you
they will
work
lend
for
to a large magazine, and then
right,
the large magazine can give it to somebody who's over 21. Um, but otherwise, yeah, you're right. So, if you're an intern if you're an intern over there at Motor Trend or somewhere, then you can probably
automobile,
drive
yeah.
a Lincoln. And interns, that's about 3/4 of their writing now. But if you go to if it's just me, freelance Joe, um, I don't get Ford
There
anywhere
are
because Ford
there
is very, very picky about who they give cars to.
Yep.
And that's another detriment, I think, because Toyota's
right.
the
I was
opposite.
It
And
is,
I was
yeah, and
gonna
you know
say
that's
that.
that's
look
a
around
good
the
point.
internet, Toyota gets a
That's
lot more coverage.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's actually one thing I've been talking to them
that's
about is I
one of
don't
their
understand why they're not lending cars more often. I mean, they know how I write, they know what I will say more or less. And I was really fortunate to actually with Virginia we drove a C-Max hybrid. I think it was about last year from Los Angeles to San Francisco. And I told them, why don't you do this more often? That was not only a lot of fun, but boy, I mean, it gets a lot of views. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And I guess it goes
I
right back
think
to what we
they
were talking
just
about.
don't they just are trying to control their image tightly, and they don't feel like that it's necessary to give a lot of review cars out there. But on I think the consumer side, what I would say is, look, a vehicle purchase, whether it is $15,000 to $50,000, which is, I would say, where probably the majority of car sales are. There could
That's the
be some
mid-market sale.
mid-market. That's a big decision people are making, and it's a decision they're going to live with for a long time. So it's
hmm
useful to have as many reviews out there with as much information as possible. And I
But
Right.
think
that
some of these luxury automakers which are trying to appeal to young people, they're all like, "Oh, let's do viral marketing and content marketing." And at the end of the day, it's like, well,
doesn't
the
work.
best marketing you can do is actually like inviting me out to an event so I can get in the car, or giving it to me for a week or two so I can like do a road trip in it, and like people will read this, or I'll do a video about it and people will watch it. And
And
to a certain extent, I don't see why some of these luxury brands, like Aaron and I were saying, well, yeah, they're saying all this, we have to appeal to young people. We're not, our base of buyers is getting older. I mean, you see this across the spectrum. We could even talk about motorcycles with Harley Davidson. I mean, people tattoo the brand onto their skin, but if those people are dying, that's not good for Harley Davidson in 15 years, right? That's why they're touring this
But that
Livewire
I
electric
think
motorcycle.
and I think that goes back to what we were talking about before is there's that problem with most car companies, and I would say even most companies, period, even outside of the of that industry, that they are really stuck between the paper pushing MBAs at the management side, and then the car guys, the engineers, the developers on the manufacturing side and the design side, and these two have stellar opposite views of the world, and I think we should see more car makers or car guys rise up to the top instead of all these guys who have done a good job in previous industries and with other companies and everything. And then I
Well,
think we
I,
would
I would
finally
say
see.
even I think there's a debate whether having a marketing person or an engineering person is good to which is better for running a automotive company. And I think the problem with engineers is that they think very linear. They don't have thoughts
Well, hold
outside
on,
of
and
what their experiences are with the
yeah, but
company,
good
or
point. I didn't.
how
Yeah,
the rest of the world is viewing
yeah, but
Ford or Lincoln
Yeah, but
or
just
Buick or
very good point.
Cadillac.
I didn't say engineer. I said car guys, and a car guy could be, an engineer, but usually a car guy is a little bit more passionate about cars,
Right.
understands why he
I
likes
don't I
cars.
don't see I don't see engineers always as car guys. When
Right.
I go to events to talk with automotive engineers, they could be smart people, but they don't seem passionate sometimes about what they do. And one thing I've noticed in the last I think this has been true probably for the last 20 years, but you will not get promoted as an engineer if you are not good at speaking publicly or public
Right.
relations, because
Yeah.
they want to put their top engineers out there
Well, and what I what I what I would like to
for
point out
press
is that
events. Yeah.
most of the really really good and the long-lived CEOs were a combination of engineering and marketing.
Right.
Um, they were the ones who would come out and they had both in their background. In fact, this new guy at Lincoln, same thing. He has both of those heavily in his background. So because
Because
an
it
engineer
really
is going to be
is.
very very task oriented, and he's going to be very and an engineer will have she'd have a very very strong sense of uh, that linear thinking you were talking about, getting the work done and doing it in an organized way. Whereas the marketer will be able to sell that approach and be able to explain to people on a day-to-day basis what
Right.
the
And
company's doing and hype up the
marketing,
smallest little thing, in order to keep the interest alive.
people don't like when you hear this from other people, or I would say it, is that marketing, even in the automotive world, that is 90% of it, really, because you should have a good product, you should have a good car, but if it's not presented well or if it's not sold well to consumers, people aren't. I don't think they're gonna end up buying that car. And like I said, the issue is that with a lot of these luxury automakers and even generally across the spectrum is I think they don't they aren't working on a basic level of we need to get cars into the hands of some of the people that we expect to buy the car. And maybe maybe with a Ford Focus, somebody who just got out of college, maybe they aren't buying that car. Maybe their parents are helping them buy that car.
Hmm.
And maybe the parents want to see, what do people in this age range, or what do people that my age, do they like this car? I don't see enough of that in the from automakers in terms of like getting cars into the right hands. I think that's really step one.
Well,
What are
So,
your guys' thoughts?
well,
from the press side, I would say that you had said earlier that the automakers need to reach out and they need to they need to invite more people, more of the press and whoever to events and things like that. And I think that's very true. I think that once a person who is writing about cars gets to the point where a manufacturer will start giving them loans, giving them vehicles to drive, that person has enough reach that they are that they can facilitate those sales for that manufacturer. So all the manufacturer has to do at that point is, one, pinpoint who those people are, the movers and shakers, and get them the cars, and two, make sure the cars don't suck. Once they do those two things, the rest of it takes off on its own, because the best advertising an auto manufacturer can get is from somebody talking about cars who reaches an audience that isn't necessarily a bunch of car geeks, that reaches more or less normal regular people that happen to be shopping for a car,
so
which is,
I
by the way, not Motor Trend and not Car and
no,
Driver.
exactly.
Right.
Those are coffee table
And
magazines for auto
Yeah.
and
shops.
one of the one of the problems with those publications is that those guys they get invited to Spain and to test drive the latest
Uh,
Lamborghini. And while that's like really cool, and the three of us would obviously like to do that, their view of cars is a little bit skewed because of that. And sometimes you get that feeling when you read Car and
to be
Driver
completely frank, though,
or
I would
Motor
rather
Trend.
a manufacturer gave me their car for a week to drive it than they shipped me off to Spain to go drive it for half a
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely.
It would be awesome to go to locales unknown and do cool stuff and hang out in great places and all of that. But that's a vacation. It's not driving the car. I would much
Well,
rather have it,
it's
because
a
in a
free
week with a
vacation.
car, I can
So
learn almost everything there is to know about it.
So I guess at this stage it would be kind of nice to circle back and figure out if we've actually answered today's talk. But I'd like to also add just one little thing that, yeah, because we have a tendency to go way off topic, and
Yeah,
we're
that's
still
true.
on topic. But one thing I do want to add to what you guys were saying is, yeah, it would be great if car makers would do that and actually lend us a car for a week and more ideally. But here's one thing that I noticed they never do, and it shows again how management is very theoretical and very bottom line, spreadsheet kind of guys. But once we've written our articles and we went on our social media networks and advertised the heck out of it, these guys just sit back and do nothing. And I always tell them, you guys already have such a reach. Why don't you put up a portal where you actually say, Car News Cafe covered our blah, 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 and check out what they have to say. Motor Trends did this, check out what, and do it. You guys can also do it on your own. You don't really need us to do all of that stuff, but it would really help if you did it. I mean, none of that makes any sense to you. But anyway, going back to the topic are they really, are these manufacturers like Lincoln and Cadillac, are they doing a good job reaching out to the younger generation? Adam, I think you had a great point. It is down the road, down the future. They're thinking far ahead. But in the meantime, I don't see that happening, and I certainly, with
Yeah,
the way the
I
economy
think
is, I don't
I
see
think
them buying
all
Cadillacs.
even if there's been success among certain automakers like GM, I still think they have a long way to go, and I think they know it, but they just don't quite know how to do it. And I'm just saying, well, step one, just work on figuring out who out there could we give cars, and I'm not necessarily saying me. I'm just
Well, I
saying,
am.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
yes,
are.
me,
but
me, me.
well, yeah, that's not true. I am saying, but so if
Own
you're
up to
listening,
it.
Well,
send me
let me
send me
let
an
me
Alfa
tell you what I
Romeo
think.
and whatever.
I'll tell you what I think Cadillac's success has been. They're not necessarily selling to a younger audience because if you look
No,
at the metrics,
they're not.
most of the buyers are over age 30. But they are selling to the nostalgic buyer. That's the guy who's 30 or 35 and still thinks he's 22 and wants a car. And that's the same market.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
Actually,
and that's a
just
market that Cadillac has really hit right on the head, because it's refined enough that when they go out with their wife or whatever, and they go to a ritzy place, that it's a car that fits the situation. But at the same time, they get that young and sporty and woohoo, I'm 20 thing, um,
so in
and
the
the marketing
meantime,
appeals to them.
yeah. So in the meantime, we'll have to wonder if Lincoln is a little bit too late to the party. I think it's a good idea what they're doing, but they're looking at 10, 20 years down the road, and in the meantime, I don't know how they're going to achieve the numbers that they want to achieve.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Lincoln as a whole is not doing too bad. They're actually doing relatively well. They've been picking up steadily since 2008, and
Yep.
so it's not a company that's dying.
No.
So it's for them this is more of a we need to get it done than it is a we're going to die if we don't. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit different perspective on it.
Cool. Well,
So
let's
for
wrap
Car
it up,
News
guys.
Cafe, this has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.
And for Car News Cafe, this is Nicholas Art signing off, and hope you have a great week in front of you, or whenever this comes out.
And he only wants you to have a good morning. Afternoons and evenings can go to hell.
Yeah, well, you know why? Because after a good morning, they usually become good the rest of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have stupid comments. Adam, goodbye. Adam is gone. We shut him up.
I think
No
Adam
way.
left.
No way. We
And
totally.
that over there used to be Adam from
That was Adam.
CarNewsCafe.com.
Unknown left the call. Well, on behalf of Adam, he's signing off, and he probably has internet connection problems. But all he said, he meant it. Anyway, goodbye, everyone.
I have no idea how to turn this off.
No, me neither. You know what? Because we're not the one who started it. So there you go. Here's another topic for next time. Technology, is it really helping us or is it really hindering us? Another topic is car writers.
And why Ford needs to dump Microsoft products in their cars. We should actually talk about that.
You know, I did talk to the team a long time ago, and it was very interesting what they had to say. But I have a lot of insight on that if you ever want to do that. And
Okay.
it sounds
Well,
like he's
Adam's back. Adam,
And
can you
so,
sign us off, please?
yeah, sign us out,
Oh,
please.
sorry, my internet cut out.
Yeah, right. That's
Okay,
what she
well,
said.
sorry, my internet cut out. Well, this is Adam with CarNewsCafe.com. If you guys have any comments about this, the show notes will be at carnewscafe.com/44, I believe. We're on podcast 44.
Yes.
Yeah. So this will be carnewscafe. So you can just access the show notes easily, and you can leave a comment and let us know what do you think. Youth marketing among automakers BS, or are they actually doing a good job? Who is doing a good job? And today I had Nicholas Zart and Aaron Turpin with me, my Car News Cafe colleagues. And catch us on Twitter at Car News Cafe. I try and be pretty active on there.
Cheerio.
Yay!
Bye-bye.
And there was